Suddenly, she noticed that one of the two figures appeared to be older than 15. He must have slaughtered 100 goblins just to survive the first round, she remarked in awe. The bodyguard, nodding in agreement, responded, "It does seem that way." Hugging her arm, she marveled at how calm the boy seemed despite the brutal experiences he must have endured. The bodyguard, with a hint of a smirk, told her that she could achieve the same feat. "Killing 100 goblins isn't that hard," he explained, "and those who can't do it are just doomed." Co Erin silently agreed that her bodyguard was indeed impressive, even by the harsh standards of the otherworld, though she kept her thoughts to herself. However, she couldn't help but compare him to Blackscythe, the man who had left a lasting impression on her. Watching Blackscythe's ruthless efficiency, she almost felt pity for the goblins he cut down. Her curiosity piqued, she asked what Blackscythe's real-world occupation might be. She was certain that if she could team up with him, she'd have a better shot at making it through the second round. She recalled how she had barely scraped through the first round by sheer luck, and the memory filled her with anxiety as she questioned whether she'd survive the next. Meanwhile, at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, January 31st, Ryu-1 turned away from the vacuum cleaner. Opening the door with a broad smile, he greeted his brother enthusiastically and asked if the money had arrived. "Only about 15 billion this time, compared to 17 billion before," Ryu-min replied, slightly puzzled. It was his fourth transaction, so he wondered if the bank had mentioned anything unusual to his brother. Ryu-min recalled that the bank manager had indeed been surprised to see him again. The manager had cautiously inquired about his secret to winning the lottery, gently reminding him that just last week, Ryu-min had told him the strategy had come to him in a dream. Seemingly convinced, the manager had even expressed a hope that he would have similar dreams in the future. Ryu-1 was taken aback by the story. He then asked his brother if he planned to reinvest in Bitcoin. Yes, Ryu-min affirmed, noting that their initial investment had already grown to 150 billion. With a bit of concern, Ryu-1 wondered aloud if they should consider selling their Bitcoin, suspecting that the value might soon drop. But Ryu-min, confident as ever, assured his brother that it wasn't the right time to sell just yet. He gave Ryu-1 a reassuring smile, promising to handle everything. Afterward, Ryu-min suggested they grab something to eat. They walked down the streets with grocery bags in hand, their spirits lifted as they enjoyed a meal of pasta at a nearby restaurant. On Tuesday, January 31st, at 11:55 p.m., Ryu-1 remained at his brother's side, holding his hand tightly as they sat together. Though Ryu-1 was still awake, worry crept into his thoughts. Squeezing his brother's hand, he urged him to come back alive. Ryu-min, with a confident smile, reassured his brother that there was no need to worry, reminding him of the power he had unleashed on someone known as Bang Taeju. Despite knowing his brother's strength, Ryu-1 couldn't help but feel concerned. Patting his brother gently on the head, Ryu-min advised him to stop worrying and get some rest. He promised that they would see each other later, assuring him that by the time he woke up, he would have already returned from the other world. Just in time, Ryu-min was transported to another realm, his soul glowing with a radiant light. Meanwhile, other players began to arrive under a gloomy, overcast sky. One player asked if they had arrived successfully, while another remarked with amusement at the speed of their travel. While some players cowered in fear, others took a moment to assess their surroundings, realizing that they were in a new location. One of the players, who had achieved the highest rank in the previous round, noticed a black sign and paused. As Ryu-min scanned the area, he saw that many people recognized him and deliberately kept their distance. Among the players, he spotted Youngmin, which made him grow impatient, wondering when the angel would make her appearance. Suddenly, the angel descended from the sky, her gaze fixed on Ryu-min, who stood with a fierce expression. She asked if everyone had arrived, her presence causing a stir among the players. The players quickly realized that this was not the same angel they had encountered before, and a wave of anxiety spread among them as they questioned what might have happened. The angel explained that the angel who had overseen the first round had been involved in an accident and couldn't make it. She urged everyone to remain calm. With a menacing expression, she announced that she would be their guide for the second round. As the details of the second round's quest appeared on the screen, the players focused intently. Their task was to choose a zone representative within the next 3 hours. However, the instructions seemed vague, and the players began to discuss various interpretations while staring at their screens. One player suggested that they might have to battle monsters again, but the uncertainty lingered among them. One player speculated that perhaps everyone could survive this round, while another expressed surprise at the number of people who had failed before. Sensing the players' confusion, the angel decided to provide some clarity. She explained that in the second round, all they needed to do was choose a zone representative, it wasn't a combat round. The The chosen representative would hold significant power, able to command others to perform tasks or even order their deaths. She reiterated that they had 3 hours to select their representative. The players were impressed by the authority granted in this round. Curious, one player asked if that was all there was to it. The angel confirmed that since this round was more of a rest period, once they voted, they would be marked as having passed and sent home. The players felt a wave of relief at the prospect of completing such a simple task without facing any life-threatening danger. As the timer started, the angel urged them to discuss and decide who they wanted as their zone representative. The players, grinning, joked with one another, wondering if they'd all still be alive after voting in 3 hours. They found humor in the easy task and the potential power the representative would wield. However, Hwang Yongmin felt disappointed that he wouldn't get to use his combat skills this round. One of his friends tried to console him, suggesting he let it go since they would all survive after voting. But Yongmin couldn't shake his frustration. He had invested heavily in his strength stat, and now it seemed wasted. Overhearing the conversation, Ryu-min quickly realized that Yongmin must have obtained the rune of strength. He surveyed the situation, noting how Yongmin's rune and the current circumstances were unfolding just as they always had. Deciding that the debate over who to support wasn't his priority, Ryu-min moved away from the group. He knew that if there was a main quest, there had to be a side mission as well. He recalled that the hidden quest for the second round involved obtaining a class. Tightening his grip on his dagger, Ryu-min was eager to level up quickly, knowing this was essential for class enrollment. When a goblin appeared, he lunged forward, and with a loud, unsettling noise, the creature moved to attack. Ryu-min swiftly countered, managing to decapitate the goblin. A notification screen appeared, informing him that he had defeated a hobgoblin. His triple XP buff was active, and he had 1 kill out of 100. Additional notifications revealed that his experience level had increased to 9%, and he had earned 15 gold. The rune of slaughter also boosted all his stats by 1%. Ryu-min decided that venturing into the forest to hunt was a smart choice. He knew that where there was one goblin, there would surely be more, and he was right. Soon enough, a group of sinister-looking goblins emerged from the shadows, causing a grin to spread across his face. Standing confidently in the center of the forest, he waited for the goblins to make their move. With a swift and precise strike, he smashed one goblin in the head and swiftly followed up with a slash of his dagger, maintaining his calm demeanor throughout. A notification flashed on his screen, informing him that he had slain another hobgoblin, bringing his total to 5 out of the 100 required kills. The bodies of the fallen goblins were scattered across the forest floor. Another notification indicated that the rune of slaughter was now enhancing all his stats by 50%. He had leveled up again. The countdown displayed that there were still 2 hours, 29 minutes, and 24 seconds left before voting closed. Wiping his chin, Ryu-min opened his stat window, curious if only 30 minutes had passed. It showed that he had reached level 9. He decided to focus on increasing his agility. While Hwang Yongmin's rune of strength was advantageous in boosting power, Ryu-min understood that it wouldn't be effective in every situation. His agility stat rose from 18 to 24. He knew that no matter how strong a player was, they would be vulnerable if they couldn't dodge a critical attack quickly enough. The game's stats were divided into 4 key categories: strength, intelligence, agility, and luck. Strength affected defense power, endurance, and physical damage, while intelligence influenced mental fortitude, calculation speed, and magical damage. After another glance at his stat window, he saw that his agility had now increased to 30. Agility improved both movement and attack speed and enhanced the ability to dodge. Luck influenced critical damage, item drops, and additional gold rewards. As a Grim Reaper class that dealt both magical and physical damage, Ryu-min knew that balancing all his stats was crucial. Each one was important in its own way. Just then, he sensed something behind him. Pivoting swiftly, he scanned his surroundings to identify who or what was there. He was startled that someone had been following him. He had been so engrossed in the battle that he hadn't noticed earlier. This situation was unsettling. It had never happened before. Raising his dagger, he demanded that the person reveal themselves and state their intentions. If they failed to comply, they would need to be prepared to face the consequences. A single footstep echoed slowly before a woman emerged from the shadows. Ryu-min recognized her instantly. It was the actress he had encountered before. He couldn't help but question whether she had truly been the one following him. Apologetically, she admitted to trailing him. Just then, another figure appeared, a man who also offered an apology. He urged Ryu-min to calm down, insisting that their intentions were not hostile. The man introduced himself as Sang-chul. Ryu Min's expression darkened when he realized who Sang Chul was, Ma Jianrock's right-hand man. Ma Jianrock, also known as the Heavenly Demon, was the eldest son of the country's most powerful corporate dynasty. He was someone Ryu Min had been targeting for a while. Ryu Min knew that having someone like Ma Jianrock by his side would make him stronger, and he needed a priest connected to Ma Jianrock to support him in the 20th round. Ryu Min was taken aback by the unexpected encounter with Ma Jianrock's right-hand man so soon. He began to wonder why Sang Chul was with Seo Rin and suspected that Sang Chul might be her bodyguard. Considering that many celebrities were sponsored by Ma Jianrock's company, the pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place. Despite this, Ryu Min felt uneasy knowing that the future had shifted from what he expected. He asked them how long they had been trailing him. Seo Rin admitted that they had been following him ever since they saw him enter the forest and sincerely apologized for it. Ryu Min then demanded to know why they had been following him. Seo Rin nervously explained that their intentions weren't harmful, they simply wanted to make him an offer. She hesitantly suggested that they form a team, knowing he had won the first round. Ryu Min chuckled at the idea of forming a group, dismissing it as irrelevant unless she could actually be useful to him. He mocked her openly. Seo Rin found herself at a loss for words, unable to counter his remarks. Ryu Min bluntly told them that he didn't need their help and would do just fine on his own. He advised them to turn back and stop wasting his time. Turning away, he made it clear that he had no interest in joining a team. They stared at him in disbelief. Seo Rin let out a deep sigh and sank to her knees as Sang Chul muttered under his breath, commenting on how arrogant Ryu Min was. Seo Rin tried to explain that there was a reason for Ryu Min's existence, but his overwhelming aura made her uneasy. Sang Chul remarked that even if someone had a knife to their face, they wouldn't be as intimidating as Ryu Min. Seo Rin felt a pang of disappointment that her plan to team up with him had fallen apart, and Sang Chul reiterated his earlier point, that people with egos as large as Ryu Min's never work well in groups. It was an unfortunate turn of events. Seo Rin couldn't help but reflect on the situation, but Sang Chul quickly reassured her, telling her that it wasn't a humiliating experience. He felt that their time following Ryu Min had been wasted. Seo Rin, trying to shift the conversation, admitted that she hadn't expected to encounter monsters in the forest. She suggested that they spend the rest of their time hunting them instead. Sang Chul agreed that it wasn't a bad idea, and they set off to carry out the plan. The forest was dense with towering trees and thick underbrush. Meanwhile, Ryu Min, hearing noises from the bushes, instinctively attacked a goblin that emerged. He found it infuriating that, despite his tight schedule, they had the audacity to ask him to collaborate. With swift precision, his dagger sliced through the goblin's flesh as he remained focused on his primary goal, leveling up. A notification popped up, confirming that he had defeated another hobgoblin. His current kill count stood at 60 out of 100, and the effects of the Rune of Slaughter had boosted all his stats by 60%. Suddenly, a pack of wolf-like creatures, gnolls, appeared. Ryu Min felt a rush of satisfaction at the sight of so many gnolls approaching at once. They lunged at him in unison, weapons poised for attack. Ryu Min stood his ground confidently, gripping his dagger tightly. Using both the fallen bodies of the gnolls and his dagger, he quickly dealt successive blows to the advancing creatures. Another notification confirmed the defeat of a gnoll, bringing his kill count to 65 and raising his stats by 65% thanks to the Rune of Slaughter. He had now reached level 10. His hard work paid off as a series of notifications informed him that he had met the requirements for class advancement. With his newfound level, Ryu Min could now access the store and a hidden subquest. The subquest window indicated that in order to obtain a class and advancement items, players needed to level up before the voting period ended. Success in this quest would also reward them with a daily item sale ticket, offering a 50% discount. Many players who were unaware of the subquest often found themselves confused, not knowing how to select a class or where to find the necessary advancement items. While everyone agreed that obtaining a class was crucial, the challenge lay in understanding the specific requirements to acquire the advancement item. For example, warriors needed to defeat monsters within an hour and increase their strength stat to at least 10. Berserkers had to hunt while sustaining injuries for a certain period. Assassins needed to successfully deceive monsters multiple times. Quick advancement was key, otherwise, players risked remaining beginners indefinitely. Ryu Min activated the Angel's Blood, and immediately, a status window appeared before him, offering a choice: do you want to select the Reaper profession? Without hesitation, he clicked yes. As a reward for his decision, he received the Reaper's Rune, a powerful artifact that significantly reduces the chances of being detected by enemies during the night. Wasting no time, Ryu-min activated the Reaper's rune. In the world of the game, where there are 6 ranks from beginner to grandmaster, players can unlock new skills as they level up. The use of the Reaper's rune granted Ryu-min the skill Seal of Death, a formidable ability that would serve him well in future battles. In addition to this, he was rewarded with a weapon befitting his new profession, the Reaper's Scythe. Ryu-min was the first player to advance, and as a reward for his achievement, a notification window informed him that he had received a random gold pouch. His strategic approach and timely execution had paid off, setting him apart from the rest. In addition to his other rewards, Ryu-min also gained the neutral skill, Tracking, as a special benefit for being the first player to advance. According to the notification window, this skill allows him to track the precise location of a designated target, provided that both the target's face and nickname match. This valuable skill could be purchased for 20,000 gold. A grin spread across Ryu-min's face as he reviewed the details on his screen. With enough gold in his possession, he decided to put the tracking ability to the test by targeting Youngmin. The tracking system confirmed a match between Youngmin's face and nickname, indicating his exact location as 190 meters away from Ryu-min. Following the instructions on the notification window, Ryu-min saw a glowing line appear on the ground, guiding him directly to Youngmin's location. He deduced that Youngmin must have also entered the forest, considering how much closer he was now compared to their last encounter, where Youngmin was 2 kilometers away. This piqued Ryu-min's curiosity as he contemplated whether or not to confront Youngmin. Elsewhere in the forest, Seo Rin and Eun Sang-chul were struggling, their breath coming in ragged gasps. Suddenly, Seo Rin cried out in pain and collapsed face-first onto the ground. She informed Sang-chul that she had injured her leg and couldn't continue running. Sang-chul, with urgency in his voice, reminded her that they had to keep moving or risk being discovered. Despite the pain, he urged her to stand up. Seo Rin apologized, describing the searing pain where an arrow had struck her earlier. Sang-chul's face darkened as he considered the possibility that injuries sustained in this world might affect their real bodies. Nevertheless, he tried to encourage her, assuring her that if they could survive this, they would be able to return home. Seo Rin, gritting her teeth, resolved to push through the pain. Suddenly, a voice interrupted them, asking, "Where do you think you're going with an injury like that?" Startled, they quickly turned to face the source. It was Youngmin, standing with 3 menacing figures behind him, all wearing sinister smiles. Youngmin mocked Seo Rin, sarcastically commenting that her injury didn't seem to be painful enough yet. Eun Sang-chul felt trapped and fury welled up inside him. He clenched his teeth, cursing under his breath at the situation, especially at the acquaintance he bitterly referred to as a stupid woman in his mind. Realizing that they might have no choice but to fight, he drew his weapon and assumed a battle stance. His readiness to fight seemed to catch Youngmin off guard, momentarily impressing him. A sly grin spread across Youngmin's face, mirrored by his lackeys. With a mocking tone, he addressed Sang-chul as "old man" and asked if he was actually thinking about fighting them. The 4 men wore expressions of arrogant confidence. Youngmin then told Sang-chul to use his eyes and count how many of them there were, clearly enjoying the intimidation. Sang-chul's anger flared as he demanded to know why they were being treated this way when they hadn't done anything to provoke him. Youngmin, maintaining his taunting demeanor, denied any wrongdoing. Confusion etched across Sang-chul's face as he questioned why they had suddenly decided to attack. Youngmin, still smirking, revealed that they needed something only Seo Rin could provide. Seo Rin and Sang-chul exchanged bewildered glances. Youngmin then admitted that his interest lay solely in the girl standing next to Sang-chul. He made it clear that they had no interest in Sang-chul himself, emphasizing that their attention was focused entirely on Seo Rin. As they conversed, the 3 men with Youngmin speculated whether the girl was indeed the famous Seo Rin. One of them noted that her face and nickname confirmed it was her. Another suggested that perhaps someone was merely imitating her, trying to take on her identity. They continued discussing how little it mattered to them, given that appearances could be so deceiving. Seo Rin's face paled in horror as she listened to their conversation. Meanwhile, Youngmin turned back to Sang-chul and offered him a deal: leave Seo Rin behind, and he could walk away unharmed. This only fueled Sang-chul's rage. In his mind, Youngmin should have made that clear from the beginning. If he had, Sang-chul might have left Seo Rin without a second thought. He glanced sideways at her, inwardly cursing the situation. He had no intention of risking his life for her, yet he was faced with a significant dilemma. If he failed to protect Seo Rin, he would surely disappoint his employer, Director Ma Jiangak. Determined not to back down, Sang-chul assumed a fighting stance, signaling that he had no intention of abandoning Seo Rin. Youngmin, visibly entertained, asked if Sangchul was seriously considering a fight. Sangchul, gritting his teeth, warned them that what they were doing was against the law. Youngmin burst out laughing at this, finding it utterly ridiculous. He sarcastically asked what laws applied in this world and whether Sangchul planned to report him once they returned to reality. Youngmin taunted him further, questioning what evidence Sangchul could possibly provide and daring him to try. He even joked that their appearances in this world might be entirely different from their real-life selves. Sangchul, seething with frustration, couldn't deny that Youngmin had a point. He knew that reasoning with Youngmin wouldn't work and that, despite his injuries, he had no choice but to fight. Youngmin wasn't going to be swayed by words alone. Just then, Youngmin's attention shifted. He was startled to see an old acquaintance, Black Scythe. The figure was casually leaning against a tree, observing the scene with a calm demeanor. Youngmin was visibly taken aback by Black Scythe's unexpected appearance. "What's going on here?" Black Scythe asked, his voice cutting through the tension. His gaze fixed directly on Sangchul, and he interrupted Youngmin before he could respond. "I wasn't talking to you," he said, dismissing Youngmin's attempt to interject. Annoyed, Youngmin told him to mind his own business and leave them alone. Ignoring Youngmin, Black Scythe turned his attention back to Sangchul. "Tell me what's happening," he demanded. Without hesitation, Sangchul explained the situation, revealing how they were ambushed by Youngmin and his men, who were after Seo Ah-rin. Desperate, Sangchul pleaded for Black Scythe's help, promising to owe him a favor in return. Black Scythe's gaze shifted to Youngmin. "Is what he said true?" he asked, his tone sharp. Youngmin, brushing off the accusation, told Black Scythe that it didn't concern him and that he should move on. But Black Scythe wasn't deterred. He stepped closer, noting the menacing red aura that surrounded Youngmin. Youngmin and his lackeys, sensing the growing tension, nervously questioned what Black Scythe intended to do. As his weapon began to materialize in his hand, Black Scythe coldly informed them that he wouldn't abandon someone who was injured. Seo Ah-rin and Sangchul felt a wave of relief, while Youngmin's anger flared. Black Scythe knew that helping them wasn't just an act of kindness. He calculated that by assisting Sangchul, he could gain favor with Ma Jiangak, and having someone like Ma Jiangak indebted to him would be a valuable asset. Moreover, he simply didn't like Youngmin. Youngmin and his men grew increasingly anxious as Black Scythe's intentions became clear. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Youngmin ordered Black Scythe to back off, threatening to kill him if he continued. But Black Scythe only smiled, taunting them with the question, "Do you really want to fight me? What's the problem?" Youngmin's fury reached its peak. To him, Black Scythe's question was absurd, almost laughable. He wondered if Black Scythe would be so confident if he truly understood the kind of monster he was dealing with. The memory of Black Scythe effortlessly defeating goblins and claiming the top rank in the last encounter flashed through Youngmin's mind, and his eyes widened in shock. Black Scythe lowered his scythe to the ground and, with a calm yet menacing tone, told Youngmin to let him know if he wanted to end the fight. The four men watched nervously as the scythe's blade moved, their fear evident in their eyes. Youngmin, visibly shaken, asked if Black Scythe would really let him go. Black Scythe crossed his arms, a hint of amusement in his voice, and replied that he might consider it, if Youngmin got on his knees and begged for his life with sincerity. The realization that Black Scythe was trying to humiliate him in front of his friends and Ah-rin twisted Youngmin's expression from smug triumph to despair. Despite his rising irritation, he had no desire to engage in a fight if it could be avoided. He scoffed at Black Scythe, but as he did, a thought crossed his mind: he had the power to shatter a wall with just his bare hands. Maybe, just maybe, he could take down Black Scythe with a single strike. A smug smile crept onto his face as he entertained this possibility. He glared at Black Scythe and spat out, You've crossed the line." He clenched his fists, preparing for a fight, and taunted Black Scythe, asking if he really wanted him to kneel and beg. With a menacing tone, he added, "Do you want to die?" Youngmin planned to close the distance between them and land a devastating punch. In his mind, there was no way Black Scythe could survive a blow strong enough to crush a brick wall. But just as he was about to strike, Black Scythe calmly set his weapon aside. Youngmin was baffled. Why would he discard his weapon? Black Scythe, exuding confidence, explained that it wouldn't be fair to fight an unarmed opponent while he was armed. Winning like that, he said, would be too boring. Enraged by the perceived arrogance, Youngmin cursed Black Scythe's foolishness. He moved into attack, but before he could react, Black Scythe suddenly shifted behind him. Youngmin, thinking this was his chance, swung with all his might, ready to land a powerful punch. But to his shock, Black Scythe effortlessly dodged his blow and retaliated with a powerful kick to his stomach. The force of the kick sent Youngmin flying, crashing into the distance, leaving him stunned and gasping for air. Black Scythe watched impassively as Youngmin's body sailed through the air, one foot still raised from the powerful kick. Youngmin landed with a thud, groaning in pain as he knelt on the ground, his curses directed at Black Scythe. With a cold expression, Black Scythe warned him to stop cursing, saying, "Your foul mouth will rot my ears," before delivering another brutal kick. Youngmin gasped as the force of the blow sent him sprawling, his hand instinctively reaching up to soothe his aching face. Without hesitation, Black Scythe grabbed Youngmin by the collar, hoisting him up with one hand while keeping him at arm's length. He then began to rain down punches with his other hand, each blow landing with a bone-crunching impact. Youngmin, dazed and reeling from the assault, thought to himself that it didn't feel like a fist hitting him, it felt more like being struck by a sledgehammer. He couldn't comprehend how Black Scythe could be this strong. Is he as powerful as me? Youngmin wondered, unable to fathom how Black Scythe could possess such strength without a rune to enhance it. As he looked up at Black Scythe's calm yet focused face, one of his friends shouted his name, while another urged the archer to take action. The archer, maintaining perfect form, quickly drew his bow and loosed a lightning-fast arrow aimed directly at Black Scythe. Aaron, sensing the danger, screamed for Black Scythe to dodge. With reflexes as sharp as his blade, Black Scythe sidestepped the arrow just in time. Despite the fear etched on his face, the archer fired another arrow. But Black Scythe was already moving, zigzagging toward him with unnerving speed, effortlessly dodging each shot. As he closed the distance, Black Scythe remarked, "You must have been lucky to find a bow while hunting. Too bad you crossed my path during a fight." With a swift motion, Black Scythe drew his weapon, and in one fluid strike, he slashed at the archer. Blood sprayed through the air as the archer let out a cry of agony, his face contorted in terror. The sight of their comrade falling only deepened the fear in the remaining two men, yet they still tried to muster their courage. They took up defensive stances, shouting at Black Scythe to back off and leave them alone. One of the men charged at Black Scythe, dagger in hand, cursing as he lunged forward. Black Scythe responded with a mocking smile, his expression almost amused. In an instant, he activated the Seal of Death. Above the man's head, a red mark appeared, resembling an eye with a skull at its center, a symbol of impending doom. Gripping his scythe tightly, Black Scythe unleashed a devastating swing. The red-hued blades of wind that followed tore through the air, slashing the man's shins with such force that he collapsed to the ground, screaming in agony as blood splattered everywhere. The remaining man, witnessing this horrific scene, was paralyzed with fear, his confidence shattered. Black Scythe lunged at the man with blinding speed, noting that the mere fact they dared to use weapons against him showed some level of resolve. With a powerful swing, his scythe sliced through the man's arm, eliciting a piercing scream. The ominous Seal of Death hovered above the man's head, a clear sign that the next strike would be even more devastating. As expected, the scythe cut through the armor with ease, doubling the damage and leaving the man clutching his deep wound in sheer agony. As the men writhed on the ground, their faces contorted in pain, Black Scythe observed them coldly. This can't be it, he thought. He knew he had to instill fear so deep they would never dare to cross his path again. When he approached, they whimpered and pleaded for mercy, begging him to spare them. Without a word, Black Scythe flicked his scythe, sending blood splattering with the movement. Another scream tore through the air. Taking a deep breath, Black Scythe decided he was finished with these men, ready to move on to the next target. His sharp gaze fell on a figure hiding behind a tree. "Hiding won't help you," Black Scythe called out, his voice chilling. In a flash, a blade of wind sliced through the young man's arm, causing him to cry out in pain as blood spurted from the wound. "Stop acting like a child," Black Scythe admonished, his tone devoid of sympathy. The young man's pain barely scratched the surface of what he had inflicted on others. Black Scythe's scythe struck again and again, each blow drawing a scream from the boy as he was mercilessly cut down. Sangchul and Arin watched in stunned silence, witnessing the brutal efficiency of Black Scythe's assault. Sangchul was particularly struck by how Black Scythe could so ruthlessly dismember an opponent who had already lost the will to fight. As Black Scythe severed the boy's arms and moved onto his leg, Sangchul couldn't help but admire the cold precision. It might seem extreme, Sangchul thought, but I appreciate that level of decisiveness. In his mind, Black Scythe rivaled even his director. Finally, Black Scythe turned to Sangchul and Arin. "Are you two all right?" he asked, his voice steady. Sangchul nodded, acknowledging that they were safe because of him. "You don't have to worry about Youngmin and his crew anymore," Black Scythe assured them, his tone leaving no room for doubt. We must conclude for today. If you enjoyed this part and want to see what happens next, please like and subscribe. Thank you.